Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from today. And thank you for joining this TechStrong learning experience with Trinity Cyber. My name is Jared, and I'd like to welcome you back to our TechStrong learning program. This session is going to be recorded. It will be available on demand. We'll send you a link to the recording once we conclude today's session. Go ahead and submit any questions that you've got on the right side of your screen and join us in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from, share your experiences, your comments, your understanding on the matter, why you're here today. We want to hear everything that you've got to say. We want to engage with you. And any questions that are not answered throughout the program today, just know that we will follow up with you shortly after the program concludes or as soon as we can get to them. Let's go ahead and kick off today's program. Full content inspection, the new standard for network security. We're joined with John Fraser, Head of Strategy here at Trinity Cyber, Elisha Lung, Senior Security Solutions Engineer at Trinity Cyber as well. Thank you, John. Thank you, Elisha, for joining us today. John, you want to go ahead and take it away while I turn my microphone and camera off?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Like was mentioned, feel free to ask questions as we go through. I want this to be as interactive as possible, but really looking forward to talking to everybody today and kind of presenting our view on not only full content inspection, but also what's happening in the current cybersecurity space today. So as mentioned, I'm Vice President of Strategy here at Trinity Cyber, and looking forward to the conversation and the presentation. So first things first, I'm going to make probably a little bit of a bold claim. We here at Trinity Cyber believe that existing cybersecurity defenses are failing. There's a number of reasons for that. We'll get into that as we go through. And then what we'll do is actually show you a demo of full content inspection as we get further along and what that means and how we look at the cybersecurity space today. So why are cybersecurity defenses failing today? For one, the preparation, the constant cycle is focused on detect and respond. And it takes a reactive and not a proactive posture to cyber threats. And we can see that is how cyber defenses teams are built. It's an endless cycle of preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, and then post-incident response and reporting. A very reactive approach. And entire teams within organizations are built on this mantra and this cycle. And it ultimately gives an advantage to the attackers. They know that we're going to be more responsive than proactive, and that's going to cause a challenge for our organizations and what we're doing today. So there's a list of old world solutions, which I'll kind of list out here today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why they don't work. So first, networks security solutions. So next gen firewalls, secure access gateways, secure web gateways, and so on. All of these solutions are kind of the traditional ones that we think of in the current market today. And then, of course, we've got the detection and response tools as well. EDR, XDR, MDR, NDR. There's a common theme with all of these, right? They all end in response, detection and response. So this is really why they don't work. They're over-optimized for incident response. They're easily evaded by attackers. They typically rely on indicators of compromise to detect and respond. They are often detect versus preventive controls. They have really high false positive rates. Industry standard, 30 to 40% we see in a lot of cases. They're excessively noisy. For those with a SIM or with alerting functionality, we're seeing so many alerts and noise just around these that nobody in a SOC or a threat analyst knows what to do with these. And it's sifting through an endless number of red flashing lights, and nobody knows which ones to turn off first. Lastly, they impact network performance. They slow down, they run in parallel, they sandbox. All these solutions don't give you the real-time threat remediation that you need. And lastly, a lot of them are very expensive, whether it's by seat, whether it's enterprise licenses, on and on, additive features that you need to keep adding to get full security benefits. The cost constantly adds up. And again, they're acting in a completely proactive way instead of being forward-focused and being more proactive. So to talk a little bit more about this, and really focus on why traditional cybersecurity tools are outdated, I wanted to bring up a few statistics. So the first is an external attacker today can breach an organization's perimeter in 93% of cases. And this is according to Positive Technologies pen testing. In addition to that, existing tools, next generation firewalls, web application firewalls, SASE, browser isolation are typically only identifying threats post-infiltration. So they're always looking after the fact. They detect something may have gotten through, and then we're doing post-incident response. This is not the way that we can really defend attackers in the most effective way. And lastly, and this kind of sums up what we've just talked about, it typically takes over 200 days to discover a breach and up to 73 days to contain it. That's just unacceptable in today's industry and today's standard, and we've got to do better. And again, the source there for that study is IBM. Cyber risks are escalating. If you look at, what some of the things that we saw in 2024, over $800 million was paid in ransomware, according to Chainalysis. In addition to that, we saw an almost 200% increase in breaches from exploited vulnerabilities, according to Verizon's report. And lastly, and this is really an important one, 45% of global organizations will be affected by a supply chain attack in 2025. And this is really important because it shows that even if you have the most robust security posture, a supply chain attack can easily cause the same disruption as if it were a network breach in your own network. I'm constantly reminded by how many vulnerabilities we see in our own firewalls, in our own VPNs, in our own endpoint solutions. How many of these did we see in 2024? And how many of these were we rushing to patch to provide solutions as we rush around to try and, patch overnight, we get frantic. These are not solutions that are easily overcome. And when they affect your supply chain, it's going to affect you in ways that you're not always prepared for. 0 days, so on and so forth. So this reactive approach is just something that's not working today. So I wanted to pull up what is called David Bianco's Pyramid of Pain. David's a well-known cybersecurity researcher who has allowed us to use this diagram for our presentations, and we thank him for that. And this pyramid was developed in 2013. And it's really important, I think, when we look even at today's cybersecurity standards over a decade later. To me, it tells two important stories. One in which the attacker has a distinct advantage, and one where the defender can gain a stronghold on the attackers. So let's first start and look at the bottom 2/3 of the pyramid. So here is where we really see the attacker advantage. Things like attacking from different domain names, using different IP addresses, generating new hash values. All of these things are easily deployed and used by an attacker. They can easily pivot IP addresses and they can create new domain names, and certainly they can create thousands of different hash values simply by just modifying a payload or what that payload might be sitting in. This is what we call whack-a-mole, and this is a distinct attacker advantage over what we have at our disposal. So what Trinity Cyber has done is decided to move up that pyramid, and where we really focus are on the tactics, techniques, and procedures and the tools that adversaries are using. This is where the defender has an advantage. And the reason being is that if we can take these TTPs, things like steganography, data obfuscation, we can take entire groups of CVEs, entire APTs completely off the table. If you're able to remove a tactic or a technique that an adversary is using, it doesn't matter how many hash values they create. It doesn't matter how many IP addresses they attack you from. And it doesn't matter how many domain names they spin up to try and get you to go to for a phishing attempt or a malicious payload download. If you can take those tactics and techniques out of line in real time, that puts the advantage back to the defender. So that brings up a great question. What if it was possible to edit live network traffic in real time? So that's exactly what Trinity Cyber has patently developed. We are able to fully inspect the content at the application layer, identify the tried and true tools and methods adversaries use, not the indicators of compromise, and edit those tools and methods out of live internet traffic to stop threats before they become an incident or a loss. And we can do this so fast as to be completely unnoticeable and so precise that false positives truly become a thing of the past. We believe this really has changed everything in the cybersecurity industry. This new approach refocuses energy on the actors and their techniques, which I just mentioned, rather than all the things that need to be protected, which are unaccountable, as a way to scale to the threat. So breaking this down a little bit more and getting into a little bit more detail, what we do is we take untrusted network traffic, then we build every session and fully open or parse it. We apply detection methods that are 1,000 times deeper than Yara, so we're detecting better. And then we prevent, not alert. We provide automated inline mitigations in real time. That's sub-millisecond latency. And the end result, delivering mitigated network traffic to its destination. So completely trusted, clean network traffic, both inbound and outbound to its final destination. This is not a concept that's really been around for very long, but people are starting to take notice. So for example, Gartner recently wrote a report late in 2024 in emerging tech called Techscape for Startups in Security and Software. A couple points here is this patented technology has been identified by analysts. And you can see, again, that in this threat detection and investigation and response approach through internet traffic, full content inspection and analysis. And the key point here is that it detects and removes threats from live traffic before they enter or leave an enterprise. And one more kind of note here on full content inspection. This technology is also being adopted by the U.S. Department of Defense, as you can see in their latest request for information from industry providers. And just to pull a couple of key comments out of this, FCI cyber defensive capabilities are based on emerging commercial technologies that increase the ability to inspect full session network traffic before it approaches the perimeter. It enhances the ability to detect malicious cyber activity, including zero-day threats, and allows for a wider range of fast response options and actions to detect activity. So this is not something that Trinity Cyber is espousing on our own. This is also something that's been picked up by industry analysts as well as those in the federal and commercial space. So with that, I'd like to actually show this in action. So what I'm going to do is I'll now turn it over to Elisha Long to walk us through a live demonstration where he will literally in real time download malicious content and then basically show you what happens in the portal. So with that, Elisha, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, John. Yep. So what I have here is the Trinity Cyber portal. This is really where we deliver the majority of our capabilities and information to our customers. Now, as John mentioned, because we have an extreme depth of visibility into traffic, and because we're also able to take advanced actions on that traffic, what we do in our portal is simply give our customers as much rich information as we can on their network traffic, and then notifications or events of what we took action to mitigate on their traffic. And so if we're looking at the portal here, just to give a quick rundown to kind of set the stage and see what you're actually seeing. For every single network, we'll show you the top threats prevented on your network. You can sort this by all of the relevant metrics. You will see the latest threats prevented, which is kind of a snapshot of our larger activity tab, where we're showing you the actual notifications of what we've seen and subsequently stopped on that network traffic. And then you will see a couple of statistical graphs of that network traffic. So the events by day, which events are the actions that we're taking per day. You'll see the total formula hits, excuse me, sorted out by protocol. And this is our formulas are kind of our version of a countermeasure. As John mentioned, these go 1,000 times deeper than the Yara rules. And basically these are a detection and a corresponding action. The actions that we take are generally to either remove, replace, or modify something from that internet session to mitigate the malicious thing and make sure that the clean traffic gets through. As well as this, we're also going to show you the monthly usage that's going over that pipe there. You will see the events by direction. We work inbound and outbound, so we work bi-directionally. So we'll show both inbound events and outbound events. And then what you'll also see down here is a few kind of graphical versions of that network traffic throughput. So you'll see that sorted out by a few different metrics, region, connection, direction, and all of these things are showing, again, just a little bit of high level information on that network traffic and what's going on with it. Now, the one other thing I'd like to show down here at the bottom is this scatter plot chart, distribution of threats prevented. This is just a great way to see which threats are kind of high in terms of your particular network traffic, what's hitting often, what we are seeing and stopping often. Obviously, we prevent against all of these things, but a good way to get an idea of what threats might be top of mind or particularly heavy in that internet traffic. So having given that little background and kind of main idea of what's on the Trinity Cyber dashboard, I'm actually just going to go out and show an example of how it works now. And to be honest here, we think the best way to do that is really just to download live malware. And so I'm going to go out to a virus total. And what I'll do, I know John mentioned an example of steganography as a technique earlier. I'm going to pull up an example of stego right now, because I think that's a great way to kind of show a little bit of a before and after of how we work and kind of show you exactly how deep we can see into the traffic. And so what I have here is this little PNG image, this yellow PNG image. This particular image is an example of steganography, right? And steganography, for those who may not know, in really simple terms, is basically a technique of appending bad data to good data. And in this case, what someone's done is they've taken a Windows executable, a remote access Trojan in this case, and they've appended it to the back of this PNG image. Now, I don't want to get super technical with kind of showing you exactly what I mean, but just to give you an idea of what I mean, if I scroll down in the hex dump of this file, if we look at the actual data in this file, I'm going to scroll to the bottom of it, and you're going to see right down here near the bottom this IEND that I've highlighted. This is what's known as the IEND chunk. It's the RFC defined end of image for a PNG file. Basically, that's where the image should end, right? There should be no data beyond that. As you can see, obviously there's this MZ, this Windows executable that I mentioned, and all this information that's tacked on the back. And that's our steganography technique in action. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this image. Obviously, I would not recommend doing this on a non-Trinity Cyber protected machine. But exactly that process that John described earlier is what's going to happen as soon as I download this. I'll click download in a second. And as soon as I click that download, we are going to fully deconstruct that session, stage it, check it for anything malicious with our entire formula set. In this case, we're going to detect that that technique of steganography is being used, and we're going to take our default action, which is to remove the appended data, that appended executable, and deliver the clean image. And all of that's going to happen with that sub-millisecond latency that John mentioned. So as an unwitting user, let's say I'm downloading this particular image to put in a paper, or I'm going to a website that has this image on it. All I know is I'm going to click download for the image I want right now, and I'm going to get the image that I wanted immediately, as soon as I expected it, as you can see. Now, this is quite a small image, of course, so we're expecting it very quickly, and I'm being delivered that image exactly as soon as I expected it, right? I've got my image. There's no danger to my computer or my network, but I don't know that as an unwitting user. Now, you may notice, and hopefully this is big enough to see, but you may notice that the file I've been delivered is about 3.8K in size, and the file that I had just clicked download on is about 263K, right? So we can see that right off the bat, something's changed about that file. But again, the average user is, all they know is they downloaded the file they wanted, they got the file they wanted. Now, as a security team, as a SOC team, as an administrator, our customers want to know, well, Trinity Cyber detected something in line. We took action. Here's what we did. And that's kind of where the portal comes back in. So what I'll do first is I'll actually go to our file parser. Our file parser is a unique tool that we have here at Trinity Cyber that allows you to drag and drop any file, and it will immediately show you the contents of the file, that file structure, as well if there's anything malicious in that file. Now, this one's not quite as exciting because we've already removed the malicious thing from it. But just so you can see that hex dump, you can see that it now ends at that IEND chunk. So all of that MZ, that Windows executable that was tacked on the back, is gone, and we just have ourselves a nice clean PNG. Where we're actually going to notify you of that is in the activity tab. For every single action that we take, as soon as we detect something and then take an action, we are going to send a notification to the activity tab of that event, as much rich information as we can on that event, and then all of the network session information and other kind of important stuff about that network session for your information, right? So for each of these, as you can see, we've written up a threat description. This is kind of what I described earlier about that technique. You'll see our response. We removed that appended data from the PNG in this case. You're going to get full MITRE attack framework tagging, file type, unified kill chain tagging. In certain cases, you'll see an exact CVE or exploit tag as well. And then over here on the right, again, you get all of that high level session information. So the source IP, destination IP, host, kind of the very high level idea of what was going on there, again, for your information. But again, because we can see so deep into these network sessions and because we have that visibility, even though our customers don't necessarily need to do anything with this because we've already taken the action, we want to give them as much rich information as we can on every single one of these sessions. And so there's two ways we do that. The first is with packet capture. As part of our service, we include packet capture on a 72-hour rolling basis for our customers. And this can be queried and downloaded directly from the portal. This packet capture is full internet session PCAP. It's not just what we see and take action on, but their entire traffic that they can download. The other way, to go along with that, you can get exact PCAP from every single event. So if I wanted the PCAP of when I went and downloaded this image, I can get that directly from the notification here. The other thing I can look at, and what I think is honestly the coolest part of our portal, is the Visualize tool. The Visualize tool kind of allows you to play a bit of an analyst role while also seeing a full graphic representation from network to file of what happened when any event happened. So in this case, when I downloaded that PNG image, we can click through at every step of the session and get all of the rich metadata at every step. So as you can see, I can click through the metadata. I can click through the IPv4 information, through the TCP as well. I can go down to the web response. I can look at the HTTP headers. All of this information is at my fingertips from this particular event. And this is, again, for every single action that we take. Now, if we're following the stream down, as you can see, that HTTP response delivers us a PNG file because that's what I downloaded. And that PNG is red. That's where we are detecting something malicious could have been. And within that red PNG is this dashed red P, or portable executable, along with all of its sub-objects. Now, all of these objects are dashed because we've pruned those or removed those in flight. But even though we've removed them, that content is still available for our customers to see. So let's say, for example, that you want to take that appended remote access Trojan that was on this image and you want to sandbox it for further analysis. Well, you can go directly to the portal and actually download that in a password protected and encrypted version to go analyze on your own as well. All of this information and all of this depth into the event is provided for every single action that we take, every single action that we see for our customers' benefit. And not to beat a dead horse per se in this situation, but again, there is nothing that needs to be done per this notification, right? We've already taken the action to clean the traffic, to remove the appended data. You can simply ignore all of these notifications. But again, we just want to deliver that information as best we can and as much rich information as we can, because that can be useful for our customers. Now, there's one other thing that I want to mention with regards to this particular example. And if I take the executable itself and I'll send it back to VirusTotal actually here for analysis, you'll see that the detection of this executable file is quite high, right? 51 out of 67 vendors in this case are detecting that executable as malicious. Now, when somebody took that executable and they appended it to this PNG image, and they did that, let's see, right here, 2015. So they did that 10 years ago. They've appended that executable to this image. And within that decade, the detection is still incredibly low, right? 8 out of 60 security vendors are flagging that as malicious. And now there's probably a few reasons for that, but the main reason for that is that in order to detect this file, almost every other vendor has to have this exact hash in a block list. And there's millions of these files, right? There's millions of files like this. It takes a second to spin up thousands of files like this. And it's just too much to play that game of whack-a-mole that John was mentioning, right? If I take this hash, if I take this hash and I upload it to all 60 of these vendors' block list, and that detection goes right up to 60 out of 60, well, again, as an attacker, I just have to change a pixel in this image, for example, and that hash will change and that detection will go right back down to probably 0 out of 60. Or even if it goes to 8 out of 60, right, it's still going to go right back down, and then they're going to have to refine that new hash, add it to the list, block it again, etc. The whole point of this is that we never do that, right? Because we detect on the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures that attackers are using, we are not detecting based on this hash or based on this image or based on that executable payload. We're detecting that the actual technique of steganography is being used in this example, and we're taking action to prevent that. And so that allows us to take entire techniques off the table. We can confidently say that we protect against steganography every single time in every instance, no matter what the hash is, what the payload is, etc. And that goes across the board. We're not just a file cleaner. We're not just a picture cleaner. When I showed you that file structure or that session structure back here in our portal, if we are detecting something in the TCP stream, for example, can take action in that TCP stream. And you'll see this as a red node in TCP. We can see through protocols. We can parse through file structures. We can, depending on time, I actually might be able to show an example of us detecting malicious JavaScript in a website and actually pulling that out in real time as users browse it. We go across the board to really just pinpoint the TTPs that attackers are using and make sure that they can no longer use those tactics, techniques, or procedures. And that just allows us to have that extreme accuracy and fidelity of detection that John talked about earlier. So with that, I will stop there. If anybody has questions, please let us know. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to John for now.
All right, we did get some good questions in the chat, which I want to reiterate for folks that may not, may not be fully reading the chat. And then what I'd like to do is actually, Elisha, switch back over to you to actually go through that Mage card example. So, the last question we just got, are SSL certificates presented to the user's browser issued by Trinity Cyber? If so, I'm assuming we can create bypass whitelist URLs where the content is not inspected at all. That's exactly right. So there's a lot of cases where you wouldn't want something decrypted. The common one I always use are network printers where, cert pinning, you start to break the decryption and all of a sudden your printers don't work. We also work in environments with, say, like body cams. They don't want that information decrypted. So yes, we go through a full exception handling policy with each of our customers to make sure that if there's anything that you do not want decrypted, we can create policies, exception policies for that. I do want to reiterate a couple other questions, and then Elisha, I'd like to go back to you. So one of the questions was around latency. So from our standpoint, we as a processing latency only introduce sub-milliseconds. So we basically say real time, but we do caveat that with sub-millisecond, which in most people's cases, as you saw with Elisha's demo, sub-millisecond when you're downloading a payload or an image file is basically unnoticeable to the end user. So our processing latency literally is sub-millisecond. So very little traffic latency introduced. The other question that came up from Andrew, and thank you for this is a good one, is this a proxy type solution or an agent where the inspection occurs on the endpoint itself? So we have a number of different ways that we can deploy. Typically the one that I describe, which is probably the most common, is our traditional proxy, where we basically sit between your organization's firewall or your end user using a VPN and the outside internet. We're gonna act as a proxy between that connection and your ISP, and that's where we're doing that full content inspection. We are delivered as a cloud solution with a number of data centers across the U.S., which would be your closest hop. So yes, we are a proxy solution. There are two other ways that you can actually use Trinity Cyber. One is if you're using a zero trust solution, we can actually forward proxy that connection, where basically we would service chain with some of the zero trust providers and provide that cybersecurity full content inspection on those endpoint devices as well. And then the last is a reverse proxy, where basically if you say are 100% cloud environment, we can basically sit between that user and the cloud and basically act as a reverse proxy to fully inspect the connection between that cloud environment. Say it's an AWS, it's a Box.com, it's a Salesforce.com. We can basically do full inspection of that traffic as well. So Andrew, I just wanted to expand on that question a little bit, and because it was a good one. And then lastly, we do offer a VPN deployment as well. So if you do have remote users or hybrid users, you can deploy a VPN on those devices to get inspection, full content inspection, threat remediation when they're not working within the confines of the office. So all good questions right there. I think Lindsay just asked a question about false positives. Yes, our false positive rate is less than 1%. In fact, it's less than 0.1%. And the reason that is just simply by the precision and the way that we our methodology around how we go after threats. Because we're not focusing on hash values and IP addresses, and we're not using tools that are basically looking for algorithms or certain things like that, we are able to take very precise actions at a high rate. We don't miss hash values because we're not looking for them. We are looking for, again, the tactics, techniques, and procedures that adversaries are using. And we do that with extremely high fidelity and precision. So yes, our measured false positive rate, and for anybody after this is interested, we can provide that in detailed calculations, is in fact less than 0.1%. Another good question. So we've got some time, and I did want to get another scenario here because I think downloading images and things like that are important, but there are a lot of other ways that Trinity Cyber can do this full content inspection. One of which is what Elisha alluded to earlier, which is malicious JavaScript running on websites. The example we're going to use today is MageCart. It really was first identified in the early 2020s. It actually hit the airline industry pretty hard around that time. And basically what was happening was users were either getting admin access to websites, or web developers were pulling bad JavaScript code and implementing, say, third-party JavaScript onto websites. And what that JavaScript was doing was basically credential harvesting or credential stealing. What's important about MageCart is not only did it affect, and this is still happening today, we see it all the time, not only is it affecting what's in your current tab in your browser, but any other tab that you have open. So say, for example, let's say you're going to an airline website or an e-commerce website, which is the example we'll show you here. If you have your banking info up, for example, if you have your payroll login up, for example, in another tab, it is able to actually cross over into those tabs and steal those credentials as well. And along with anything else that you're inputting into any field within those sites. So really dangerous. It's really almost impossible for typical solutions to stop a user interaction with a website. Typically where we see solutions for MageCart are when a web developer or someone with a web-facing instance is using a tool to basically scan their website for malicious code. It's almost impossible outside of Trinity Cyber and full content inspection at a user side to be able to stop those threats in real time. So what Elisha is going to do, I've basically sent him an email saying, hey, this would be very common in any organization. Go to what I've called Bosa Tech Solutions, which is a website that we've stood up that's basically running MageCart. But think of this site as any popular e-commerce site that's out on the internet today. There's thousands of these sites, and I can tell you that there's thousands today that probably have MageCart or Sign1 Downloader running on them today. So what Elisha is going to do is basically go to this site to order his new laptop for work. And I'll hand it over to him to tell you exactly what's happening as we do that. So Elisha, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, John. So exactly that. We obviously do not have this website staged on the outside internet because it does have a live example of malicious JavaScript, a credential skimmer on this website. But I can obviously with full confidence navigate to this website, even internally, knowing that we are still inspecting that website and taking action. And so what we have here is exactly that, right? It looks like an e-commerce shop. I would go to this website to go buy the laptop that John is telling me I have permission to get. And the way, the beauty per se of how MageCart works is that I can go to this website. I can select the laptop I want. I can go put in my home address, my credit card information, all of that information. I can purchase that laptop, and that laptop will show up at my door, right? I will see no issues with the process of purchasing this. I will notice nothing different. However, in the background, as John mentioned, not only will they have skimmed or grabbed my credentials and my credit card information, all that sensitive information, but they'll do that of every other tab that I have up as well. And so I did, for the sake of that, I pulled up a payroll, I pulled up healthcare, health insurance, I pulled up my banking information, just to get an idea of what could possibly be lost. And I have the Trinity Cyber portal up there too. So theoretically, someone using this on an unprotected computer could try and grab credentials of that as well. But what's going to happen, and the beauty of what we do here at Trinity Cyber, right, is that we kind of do that exact opposite thing again in real time. So not only am I going to be able to surf this website to open this e-commerce website, purchase my laptop, put in my credentials, put in my home address, all of that, but also, again, I'll be delivered that laptop. I will notice no issues with the speed of the website, with the performance of the website or anything. But in the background, we will have removed those malicious scripts from the actual web page itself while I'm navigating it to prevent those scripts from stealing any of my information or the information on the other tabs, and just keep me and my network safe, right? And so the way that I can show you that, because I can tell you that, right? But a way I can show you that again is back in our portal. And so if I go to our activity tab, excuse me, again, you'll see a new notification here for a JavaScript file web skimmer, along with that MageCart credential skimmer. And if I open that up, this is where we are again notifying you of what we've seen and subsequently taken action on. So again, as soon as I clicked on that link, we took action and we've sent notifications to the portal. In this case, 2 of our formulas detected something wrong with this session. The first formula detected that there was a JavaScript web skimmer kind of as a whole being used on that website. And again, it's got that exact same description that I mentioned. In this case, attackers embedded redirects in the malicious scripts to harvest user credentials, and you'll see our response. We've removed one or more malicious script files from the session, preventing the harvesting of the user credentials. You'll get, again, all of the MITRE ATT&CK framework tagging, all the relevant tagging here. But in this case, we also had a second formula hit on this event that's specific to the MageCart credential skimmer itself, which is a very similar attack. It's the same technique, right? But this particular formula is geared towards detecting MageCart itself. And so in this case, both of those formulas detected malicious skimmers. They both take action to prevent that. And we're going to show you all of the information on that here. And so same thing. I can go and get the source IP, destination IP. You can see it's coming from that Bosa Tech Solutions website that we stood up. All of that high level information is at your fingertips for this event. But if we go into the visualize, that's where we can really kind of show you the cool view of exactly what we saw and stopped, right? And so again, I can click through each level of that session, click through the metadata, click through the protocols, go to the web response itself, the HTTP response, which has this HTML page in it. If I want to inspect the content of that HTML page where our formulas detected that a skimmer was there, I can look through that. And if I want to go down into the scripts, I can see obviously there's a couple benign scripts on that web page, but there is this one malicious red dashed script. And that's the particular script that has the MageCart skimmer on it itself. And that's what we've removed in line. And so this is kind of an overhead view, right? I still navigated to that website. I can still move around the website, do my purchases as intended, but that one script that's malicious in there that has the malicious skimmer is going to be removed in line every single time, right? And so I can't control as a user or a commercial entity what random websites I go to, what they're having on their HTML scripts, right? I can't control what they have on their web pages. I can just hope that maybe some other content network has detected that at some point and blocked those websites or told them, hey, we need to take these down, a WordPress or whatever, right? But with Trinity Cyber, I can navigate to that website and have Trinity Cyber inspect that web traffic and take action in real time, no matter if someone else has even detected that MageCart, for example, is on that website, to remove that from the site in line so that my users are safe. And really, this is, again, how we are proactively able to prevent against these attacks from the inside, and how we're able to give capabilities to the defender that go far beyond the standard block and allow to keep you guys safe and keep your networks and your browsers and your users safe. So that's another kind of quick example of, again, how we work in real time, how we can take action, and how we can see into traffic. And again, I'll hand it back to John if anybody has any questions or to take it from here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Elisha. So a couple things I did want to add on to what Elisha just said. So a lot of times we get the question, well, why not just block the website? Well, first of all, that's what traditional solutions are going to do. So rather than blocking the website, I'll give you a couple examples of why that might not be the best case. And it really comes down to business continuity. So let's go back to the airline example. So let's say I'm in an airport, my flight gets delayed or canceled, and I need to rebook my flight. Now let's go back to the early 2020s, when these airlines were hit with the MageCart, and all of a sudden your firewall says, nope, you can't go to xyzflight.com. That site's running MageCart. We're going to block that site. I'm sitting in the airport needing to rebook a flight, and now I can't do what I need to do to get to the meeting that was booked for, that I had booked travel for. So what we do is we are able to remove, replace, or modify traffic in flight without having to do simple things like block and allow. That is a old world technology that simply has become outdated. To give you another example, let's say you're a small company running payroll at the end of the month. And all of a sudden, the payroll company that you use, there was a detected Magecart or Sign One downloader or some other sort of malicious JavaScript that's running on that site. Your firewall is blocking it. So you have one option, unblock it, but then you're going to be potentially infected with that malicious JavaScript, or you can potentially delay payroll. What we are going to allow is not to necessarily block that site, but to actually remove the malicious script again and allow business continuity. And because we're able to do those advanced techniques, we are allowing organizations to continue business as usual. So I really wanted to kind of foot stomp that a little bit, because I think it's a very distinct difference between Trinity Cyber and what full content inspection allows you to do versus traditional methodologies that are happening today. So do you help prevent adversary in the middle attacks? They're often seen with phishing when the attacker creates fake login pages to steal credentials and session tokens. Yes, we see this quite a bit. A lot of times we see it even hidden in attachments where a PDF has a phishing lure in it. This is a common one that we're seeing quite often now, where someone is trying to get you to go to a website where they're trying to phish or steal your credential information. So in much the same way that Magecart is acting, we're doing the same type of things with file attachments or links that are going to take you to a website where they're trying to get you to click on something. We see this quite often. Elisha, I don't know if you had anything to add on that, but yes, we see.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna try to pull one up to show an example, and unfortunately, the examples I have are showing sensitive customer data or IPs. So I'm probably not going to do that on this recorded webinar. However, exactly that. We see so many examples of things like fake QR codes or fake CAPTCHAs or fake Microsoft login, like you see, where you'll get emailed a PDF. You open that up and it pops up the little Microsoft Outlook login, and people put their credentials in as much as we'd like to hope they wouldn't. People get caught by that all the time, and we detect that in real time. We either can remove the CAPTCHA or the login entirely, and they would be opened with a blank PDF. We can modify our formulas. So if you want us to pop up a screen that just says, "You're being silly, please don't put your Microsoft credentials where you know they shouldn't go," we can do that. But we will detect these adversary in the middle attacks, as you mentioned, and we will take action to prevent them in real time.
Yeah, and another question in the Q&A here that I think we kind of addressed, but I want to make sure to foot stomp it in case folks missed it. So the question is, with respect to remove, replace, or modify traffic in flight, what is the overhead millisecond cost to the end user in terms of latency? So it's actually sub-millisecond. So our processing latency on everything that you've seen is literally sub-millisecond. So as far as latency, it's basically imperceivable to the end user. So that's where we basically say real time, and of course caveat that with sub-millisecond, but pretty much imperceivable to the end user. And I think you saw that when Elisha downloaded the image file earlier today. I think, yeah, we had the question earlier about a proxy. I think we addressed that. So I'll just leave it open for a couple more minutes for questions. These have been really, really great questions so far. There are also a number of handouts available as well. Elisha and I can also be available for follow-up if you have specific questions that to your organization. But yeah, and I just want to keep up with the questions here. Okay, looks like we've answered all of those. But yeah, any other questions? Thank you for the heart there. That was great. I hope this was really helpful. Again, keep asking questions. We'll stay on for a bit to help answer those as well. But I hope this was worth your time. I appreciate everybody attending today. Like I said, please follow up if you have any other questions or want to look at a trial or a proof of concept of this in real time. As I said, I think this is truly groundbreaking in terms of what full content inspection can do for your organization. And if there is a way that we can help, please reach out and let us know. And like I said, we'll stay on for a few minutes for any chat or Q&A that you guys have as well.
We can go ahead and stay on after. I am going to close out, and then I'll let you guys just hang on for any additional questions that come in.
Sure.
All right. So I do want to thank John and Elisha. I want to thank you guys both for an amazing topic today. I know that I actually learned a few things about the script removing. That was actually pretty great. I'm interested in learning more about that. But thank you for taking the time to be with us and go over this and give us that demonstration of the product. But before we do close out, I want to remind everyone there are the handouts in the resource section on the left side of your screen. We've also got a quick survey in there. If you guys can fill that out, there's 4 quick questions. It helps us out a lot. Your feedback goes a long way. It helps us and Trinity Cyber know, excuse me, what we need to do in the future, and just everything is invaluable that you can put in there. So once again, this program is being recorded. We will receive an email to you to your inbox shortly after we conclude today's session. Thank you again for joining this TechStrong Learning Experience, and we look forward to seeing you on our next program. And if you have any more questions, go ahead and put them in now. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.